Welcome back, everyone. Second series of the day. We're jumping up to the upper bracket. Winner of this moves on to the finals for the European region. It's Skillcapped EU facing off against Method EU.
All right. Blizzo's coming in. I was expecting not this. I thought it was going to be Rogue Mage Priest into Shadow Priest Mage, so I think Skillcapped EU anticipated that and picked Warrior Mage to try and counter Rogue Mage, but they ended up getting Shadow Priest Mage, which we'll get this. I guess we're going to see which one's better between the two. I feel like the Warrior's going to have a bit of difficulty in the matchup if Method EU can drag this fight into deep dampening.
I think you got it exactly right. Skillcapped EU, they were anticipating the Rogue Mage Priest, so they locked in the Warrior Mage Paladin, but I like what Method EU did. Instead of trying to get an edge in the matchup, they just went, this is the safe play. We got the Shadow Priest, we got the Mage, the Paladin. Pretty decent matchup into anything. I think Blizzo is going to be probably the primary target in this matchup. Expect big setups coming in from Method EU on him. Big Hammer of Justice, already scary. Maro using his Kleptomania spell steal to reduce some of the damage. It looks like Blizzo will be able to hold on, but that was his trinket. That was the dive of the sword. That was a Kleptomania from Maro. But now, Skillcapped EU, they need to try to find some pressure in the match. I wonder if they're going to go after the Shadow Priest, or if they're going to go after the Mage. Seems like Thasia is going to be the best target for now. Maro actually just blinking on top of Thasia, going for a shifting power play, trying to get that additional damage. That was interesting. Thasia shuts it down with the Dragon's Breath, and now I think it's going to be Blizzo in trouble once again.
And we're going to see here a Polymorph actually going out onto Chaz, but Maru also caught up in a Polymorph, and here comes the damage onto Tessia. Resheep coming out as well. Maru with that combustion rolling here. Tessia, what are you going to do? Chaz responds with his trinket and his sacrifice. Now they're looking to turn the pressure around and potentially over onto Blizzo. There's the silence, there's the Hammer of Justice, big damage coming out. There's the Mind Games, gets dispelled by Asgarath, and Blizzo looks like he's going to be completely fine here. Maru shutting it down, spamming out polys on Zuni, spamming out polys on Tessia, looking for a Ring of Frost, looking for some sheeps, not able to find it just yet. Mind control, they're trying to drop a ring on the ground and then walk Asgarath into the ring, but they're not able to find it. Maru once again shutting down Tessia here on that attempt, but they do sneak in a full polymorph, and that means Blizzo it's time for him to run. Ring of Frost gets counterspelled, reflect there on the poly, and then Maru actually re-polying Tessia there as well. So nice shutdown from all across the board here, and Blizzo is going to survive, only really using his heroic leap here, but this is a matchup that we've seen before, and typically when it goes long, it goes in favor of the Shadow Priest Mage. So we'll see if Skillcapped EU can pull ahead early on.
All right, we see Chaz locked in crowd control and Thasia low on health. Saved by the light going to proc, however, and a blink on the Stormbolt, I think likely means that Thasia will recover. Caught in the Dragon's Breath for a moment on the Divine Favor. Chaz is still going for it, connects it, and yeah, with the reflected Polymorph, Thasia will recover. Maro's trying to reset Combustion. He's also min-maxing, playing aggressive on top of Thasia, getting shifting power damage out as well. And I feel like Maro is heavily focused on just damage output and min-maxing that to the absolute limit. Whereas Thasia may be more focused on trying to set up these perfect burst windows. We're going to see a different style of play between two fire mages in this matchup. Chaz is in crowd control, falling behind. Mass Dispelling from Zuniaki. Clutch timing, but a Hammer of Justice to punish. Thasia is still very low. Blizzo tearing in, pushing for a Cauterize. No sacrifice for 14 seconds. Chaz gets a Flash of Light with that Triune Ward. Now Blizzo dips low, gets a big heal out from Asgarath with the Divine Toll. We see a War Banner placed down on Asgarath, catching that Ring of Frost. Nice War Banner from Blizzo, breaking up the crowd control. Freedom on Blizzo, charging over to Zuniaki for a moment, just attacking the Shadow Priest because Thasia is behind the pillar and unable to be reached at the moment, and actually getting a decent amount of damage out on the Shadow Priest. Chaz now into the Stormbolt. Blizzo looking like he wants to switch back to the Mage. Asgarath charging in as their Blinding Light. Triple crowd control with silence on Zuni, but Asgarath gets intercepted. Thasia is still the one falling behind, though. He's going for shifting power, even though he's at 30% health. Chaz manages to recover with the sacrifice trade here. Blizzo's pushing with Avatar, but actually just retreating with Avatar at the moment, hitting Chaz for a moment. I like that he's using the hamstring onto Chaz, just min-maxing that slow, making sure that everybody is as controlled as possible while he wasn't able to hit anything. Chaz now into a full polymorph. Thasia still the target, going for a Stormbolt. Battle stance. Thasia trinkets immediately and alter times. Blizzo is in a mind control. Really like this mind control from Zuniaki whenever Thasia is low health. utilizing it almost like a druid would utilize a cyclone to stall damage while Chaz is in crowd control. Now it's time for Method EU to turn the table. Asgrath and a polymorph. Maro gets counterspelled. Blizzo, he's on the run, but he's very low on health, and Asgrath has to respect the crowd control chain, trading the medallion and sacrifice, and Chaz is taking this opportunity to sneak away and try and drink. Maro tries to snipe him with the flame strike. Vulpin shapeshifts in to hit him and denies it for now and finds a full polymorph. Big damage onto Thasia. Thasia on the run with the soul shape. Blizzo is trying to reconnect, but he's getting mind flayed. Really clutch mind flay from Zuniaki here on Blizzo, just snaring him, trying to prevent his advance. And it's really these min-max plays, to me, that kind of differentiates these top-level players from just your average Joe.
Yeah, the Meteor's going to be landing onto Thasia. He takes a huge hit. Kleptomania spell seal incoming. Blizzo all over Thasia. We look at mana right now. Asgrath actually a little bit behind, which is surprising because, like you said, Blizzo Maro, a lot of consistent damage in this matchup. Big setup here on Blizzo. Is he going to be able to survive? It will be the dive of the sword. Into a mind control now. That gets shut down. Full polymorph lands by Thasia. And Blizzo doesn't have the luxury of a master spell here. He's in a lot of trouble. Asgrath's going to have to trade. He's got the Divine Shield. Rallying Cry comes in. Blizzo has a lot of boosted temporary health right now that Asgrath has to heal through if he wants to keep him alive. We're at 2% dampening, and Blizzo is looking more and more like just a vulnerable target in this matchup. Asgrath, I just don't know if he has the healing to sustain this. Thasia getting a little bit low. Finally, Blizzo gets topped off, back and forth, but I just think Method EU, as this game goes on, they're looking good to close it out. Asgrath is just not going to have the healing to keep Blizzo alive. Maro's going to have to help him with a lot of peels incoming. We need to get some damage rolling on Thasia as well. Hammer of Justice on Chaz is a perfect opportunity with a stun on Thasia. Could be a nice block. Zuniaki backs him up with a life grip. Blizzo still just trying to stay on target. Thasia doing a good job using Shimmer to maneuver around the map. Blinding Light on Chaz. Finally out of crowd control. Should be able to top off his mage, and here comes a big setup. Hammer of Justice on Asgrath. Blizzo around 70% health, but doesn't look like there really is the damage output right now from Method EU to take him down. A huge hit comes in. Maybe a Battle Master's falling there. And Blizzo, he's got no tools left to survive. Asgrath now in a full Ring of Frost. He's got the Trinket Sacrifice, likely just going to be trading that out at the last second if he needs to. Blizzo trying to avoid that interaction, trying to avoid that trade with a beautiful, intimidating shout. Shuts down Method EU in their tracks and manages to hold on.
Yeah, and I gotta say, Zuni in this matchup is just completely left alone to do whatever he wants, and he's been doing a great job. Anytime Maro lands crowd control, there is mind controls happening, like right here. Mind control going to be setting up a full CC chain here potentially. Tessia gets counterspelled by Maro on that sheep attempt right there, but Tessia's just going to keep looking for these random polys, looking for these random Ring of Frost, and anytime he lands a Ring of Frost like that, even if it's just on the ground, Zuni has an opportunity to mind control Asgrath and then walk him into that Ring of Frost.
Nice.
Here, once again, they set it up here with a Psychic Horror into the Ring of Frost, but a nice shutdown by Maro, sheeping Zuniaki, a very crucial moment. That shuts down the silence there of Zuniaki potentially, or any fear that he might have had as well to follow that up with the Ring of Frost. Now Blizzo is going to be charging back out in open field, looking to go after Zuni a little bit, but you can tell he's not 100% sure here if he wants to leave Tessia completely by himself like that. Tessia immediately pops his combustion and just basically taunts Blizzo to go back on his target. Maro does get that with the Kleptomania there. Chaz actually sitting down for a drink here, getting a couple of sips here behind the pillar now that his team is completely fine, and it looks like he's going to be recovering a lot of mana, and there finally Blizzo able to go in and stop it. But look at Asgrath's mana, look at Chaz's mana. That mana lead right there is huge, and they nab themselves a full polymorph here onto Asgrath. Blizzo trading out the Die by the Sword and the defensive avatar there just for the absorb. Asgrath able to sit through that crowd control as a result, but more and more cooldowns here being forced from the side of Skillcapped EU. Method EU are just running away with this game slowly but surely. Skillcapped EU, they have a little bit of mana left. They have all of their paladin cooldowns. They have this next combustion of Mara. They need to make something happen with it. Blizzo dropping dangerously low here once again. Zuniaki just ripping through here with that damage. So much damage and control here with that Shadow Priest left by himself. Finally, a full sheep snuck in onto Chaz. Chaz going to use that Hammer of Justice onto Maro to stop the resheep. And now as a result, Asgrath caught up in a sheep, getting the Ring of Frosted out of it as a result here potentially. Tessia unfortunately getting a little bit unlucky with his pathing on that sheep. Asgrath going to be able to top Blizzo and then walk into the Ring of Frost and DR himself. And now once again Blizzo is going to live to fight another go.
Yeah, but how much longer? Asgrath has 0 mana here. He's likely going to have to trade Sacrifice on this exchange. Blizzo's just out in midfield. Spell reflects a Pyro, goes back in a defensive stance, but Asgrath is still in a fear for 1 more second and has to trinket right at the end of the crowd control to get that Sacrifice reconnected. But mind controls are being spammed out on Blizzo at low health, denying the recovery. Maro blinks behind, gets a Dragon's Breath. Chaz has a substantial advantage in this position. Silence is available. Power Infusion is coming up. Zuniaki could just tear in here in a moment with the Void Form coming up in 26 seconds as well. Blizzo's trying to push forward, but his healer's still getting crowd controlled. He war banners the Polymorph. Clutch war banners from Blizzo. If there was anything that's going to allow his team to win, it's those disruptive war banners that he has just been nailing time and time again, getting Asgrath out of crowd control. Chaz now in a Polymorph. Mars trying to turn the tables. He's got Combustion. This is likely his last Combustion of the game. He needs to try and lock a Polymorph and go all out for it here if they want to find a kill. Asgrath has absolutely 0 mana. He's in a full Polymorph. Blizzo died by the swords. He's very low. Can he get enough rage to use Ignore Pain? He activates Ignore Pain. He's trying to push through the pain and take out Thasia, but Chaz trades out Sacrifice and denies the kill. Asgrath Divine Shields. Asgrath is chasing Chaz. He's desperately trying to find Chaz in crowd control. Chaz is just playing mind games with him on the pillar. It's ring around the rosy between Chaz and Asgrath. Asgrath finally catches a stun, but he trinkets immediately, and Blizzo's on 10%. There's nothing left in the tank here. Trying to wrap around the corner on 1% health. How are they going to heal Divine Favor? He's waiting to get mana, but he gets silenced up on the Divine Favor, and that's going to be it. Method EU take game 1, looking confident on their Shadow Priest Mage.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really, really impressive performance by them, and I really do think that this matchup's going to come down to both these teams basically having to play Shadow Priest Mage Paladin mirrors, because I don't think the Warrior Mage Paladin really looks that good. Zuniaki, like Zico mentioned, just had so much control in this matchup. Basically, whatever he could do whatever he wanted, going for Master Spells whenever crowd control landed on Chaz, going for Mind Controls. Anytime we saw Skill Cap get any sort of momentum and pressure, and I feel like Skill Cap T is going to have to make a change.
Yeah, and I mean, even here at the end, the guy who actually pushes in and ends the game is going to be Zuniaki. So they get a sheep onto Asgrath. Asgrath bubbles, trades out his last cooldowns here, and then Asgrath knows, okay, well, I have to try to make something happen. And look at Chaz here. He's just waiting. He's just waiting. He's like, my teammates, they don't need any heals right now. I have a Sacrifice rolling right now. There's no reason for me to even be out there. I'm just going to be healing myself. Now, finally, the Hammer of Justice comes through, but it's too late. Blizzo gets 1 heal there with Asgrath's last mana, and Zuni channeling out the Door of Shadows, gets the silence. Blizzo with an excellent timing there on the fear, trying to buy himself just a split second there, and activating his Ignore Pain as well, but can't ignore Shadow Word Pain.
Definitely cannot, as we just saw. We've got Method EU taking game number 1. You good?
That's actually ironic. It's Ignore Pain, but it actually didn't ignore Shadow Word Pain.
Yeah, see, I told you, I like to leave it up like anticlimactic like that.
that was but that was low key funny. It just took me a little bit to realize it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't realize it until you pointed it out. So that one, I don't know if I ever would have. Thank you, Sid.
That's why he's here to explain my jokes.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a deep knowledge of cringe. It's my speciality.
That is true.
Your
That is very true.
Oh man! All right, well, we are going to be seeing Method EU take game number 1 here, and pretty shortly we're going to see Skill Capped EU starting off that draft process. And like these guys are saying, they're going to have to switch something up here going into game number 2 if they want to try and win the series, moving on to that finals position for the last championship Sunday here. We know both of these teams are very, very capable. We didn't really see, a lot of room for mistakes in that game number 1. Lots of back and forth there, but in the end, does it just come down to comp Sven in this particular matchup and which one just works better?
Well, compositions are always going to matter, but also, I mean, it's kind of which team kind of rises to the occasion, right? I mean, we've seen Skill Capped EU versus Method EU so many times in the past, and it really does go quite back and forth, I would say. One week it looks like Method EU completely dominant in the matchup. The next week it looks like Skill Capped EU, they figure it out, and all of a sudden they're winning every time. So it's just about who's playing better on that particular day, who's bringing the right compositions, little mind games, things like that. So I think for Skill Capped EU, they just need to put their best foot forward and go into a mirror match, and it's unfortunate though, because I think they're afraid of the RMP as Shadow Priest and Mage Paladin potentially. So now that they've lost that blind pick, this is going to be a really rough series for them.
First go cap to you.
Yes.
Yep. All right, looks like they're locking in Tolveron here. Method EU going to be locking in the same composition here from game number 2 here. And they're just looking so clean with this. Not really a surprise there that they didn't falter from their first choice that they did lock in on the blind. Now it's going to be skill capped EU. Responding to that one. What are they going to do here? How are they going to respond going into game number 2? This is also a best of 5 series here. It's a upper bracket, so they could still have another chance to face off against Method EU once again if Skill Capped EU does end up dropping down to that lower bracket. It's something that we've seen quite a lot with these two teams. They face each other twice in one day because often one team will drop down and then they'll go back up to that finals position. So we may see this as a rematch again in the future. And it's interesting as well when you see two teams face off against each other like twice in one day, Zico, that the two individual series oftentimes end up looking like completely different. It's like one team has figured out something in the second round.
Yeah, usually you have that team kind of the first series, especially the team that loses usually gets that chance to really reflect on, okay, what were the bad decisions we made, what comps did we run that we maybe shouldn't have ran, bless even, and all of that, right? So definitely a big talking point, but I think this matchup, like kind of Ben already mentioned here, it really does come down to the blind, a lot of it, because now Skill Capped EU, they have two options, right? They can do Windwalker Mage or they can do the Mirror here, and they're going to go for the Mirror. And for Method, this is what they're going to do. If Skill Capped EU locks in Shadow Priest Mage blind, Method probably locks in Rogue Mage Priest blind, and then Skill Capped EU has to beat their Rogue Mage Priest. And they might be able to get a win like that, but I think Method thinks that the Rogue Mage Priest should beat the Skill Capped Shadow Priest Mage. So every time Method are blind, they can blind lock God Comp, essentially, and get a Mirror at worst. So for them, they have all of the cards now. They have the counter matchup on if they do lose that Mirror matchup, and on the blind, the worst case scenario is that they play a Mirror. So for them, I think they're on track for a 3-2 or a 3-1 here if they can win this Mirror match.
3-2 or 3-1. All right, Super Tees, do you think Skill Capped EU can win this mirror match, or do you? What's your prediction here?
Well, downside is that they haven't been playing with Frosty very long. I don't know if Maro plays with him on the ladder, maybe a little bit like in between before getting him onto the roster. Frosty has a lot of experience in this comp, having played it in BlizzCon back in Mists of Pandaria with Livin. Like, I feel like this is Frosty's comp, so they have experience, but it's also Zuniaki's comp. Like, this is this is actually this is a really great series to have a mirror between these teams because there's so much history and experience between the players. Although they're kind of reconstructed rosters, right? Deja in for Raikou and Frosty in for Zeepai and Asgrath in for Looney. They've still got experience on the individual players and they're all competent. So I would imagine that this is going to be pretty explosive.
Yep, I think so too. It's something that we see often with these two teams, and Super Tees is absolutely right. We're seeing different rosters from these guys as we're going through these cups. So they're probably still getting their synergy a little bit. So the dynamic is definitely changing between these two teams. But I feel like we're still seeing that top level of competition that we're used to seeing with these two teams right here, Skill Capped EU and Method EU. Method EU only one game away from putting themselves on match point, or is Skill Capped EU going to be able to handle this mirror?
We're going to have to wait and see. I mean, it should be interesting. I was really impressed with Skill Capped EU and their Shadow Priest Mage on Friday, so we'll see if they can go toe-to-toe here with Zuniaki and Theja. I have to believe that they will be able to, but we will see. Right away, we see a silence on Theja, a disarm on Chaz. Looks like Theja is the target of choice as he uses Soul Shape to get away just for a moment. Back to the pillar, back to Chaz, back to safety. Then manages to recover without really trading out too many cooldowns there. And it looks like both these teams are stable. Maro kind of pushing into an aggressive position. He wants to find crowd control on Chaz, but you can see Chaz just out of line of sight. Ore Mastery comes in. I like that aggressive Ore Mastery, allowing Maro to potentially find a Polymorph, but Chaz just easily avoids it with line of sight. Theja's still in some trouble here using his Trinket, as well as his Shadow Meld and the Kleptomania Spellsteal to avoid Maro's damage. He gets topped off, and both these teams looking pretty evenly matched right now, but it is Skill Capped EU who looks to get aggressive first. Now a counterattack coming in from Method EU onto Maro, but with a great positioning, Asgrath really in no danger of crowd control, and should be able to easily heal up Maro through this damage.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to have no problems here. Both of these mages trying to reset their combustions right now. And we do see a setup here happening on tomorrow. No crowd control onto Asgraf, though. He's got that divine favor here. And Morrow is in a defensive position. So he should be able to get that off and top Morrow. And he will be able to do just that. Now, Tessia almost having his combustion ready here significantly earlier than Morrow. Morrow actually going to be resetting his with the shifting power now as well. Both mages just spamming out the fireballs. Zuni trying to bait out a dispel here. Oh, nice dispel into counterspell onto Chas right there. And that means that Chas is going to be locked. Tessia is going to be forced to blink back. Asgraf is actually going to sit down for a drink here and immediately capitalize on the fact that Tessia was forced to blink back. And now he's going to have a little bit of a mana lead here. But I do believe Chas should have an equal opportunity to sneak away and drink as well. And here comes the setup. There's the disarm onto Asgraf, silence onto Morrow. Where's the damage though? Zuniaki getting counterspelled, so he's not going to be able to push in really here and get anything going. Asgraf with the Divine Favor gets another big heal on tomorrow, and he's going to be able to stabilize him. And at any point here, Zuniaki actually taking a decent amount of damage as well. Needs to be very careful. Activates the Fade, goes for the Master Spell, he gets it off. Chas gets the Dispel on the Hammer of Justice, but he does CC himself there. Chas actually forced to Trinket as a result because they had to Trinket that Horror effect. Can they get something onto Asgraf now? They get a full sheep here. Master Spell on Prophecy. No, he's going to get that off. And that means Asgraf is actually going to get repoled here, though. Prophecy's still taking a little bit of damage, and all of a sudden it's turning into a little bit of a Shadow Priest race. And I'm not sure if it was actually worth trading Chas's Trinket there instead of Zuniaka's Dispersion, since they have been hitting the mages mainly so far. But now there's some openings here onto Chas as well.
There's a lot of valuable cooldowns like Power Infusion and Combustion that both teams need to try and protect. At the moment, Thasia's going with Combustion while Morrow is interrupted, but did it ultimately get Kleptomania. Now Morrow has Combustion available. If they can cover Thasia and Zuniaki, they're powering down Zuni here. Well, they died through Dispersion on 10%, managing to stay alive. Really clean setup there, interrupting Thasia and then pushing through onto Zuniaki, getting all of his defensive cooldowns. Asgraf now in a polymorph, though. Can Method EU cross crowd control? Stun on the Mage. They're going after Prophecy. Void form from Zuniaki. Prophecy going to fade, wrap around the corner here, try and catch some Shadow Mends, and completely heal himself to full. I would imagine he is running the Shadow Mend Legendary as he is. Is Zuniaki also running this out of curiosity? No. So Prophecy is opting for a defensive Legendary, whereas Zuniaki is opting for the double Power Infusion. In this mirror matchup with no Mortal Strike, it basically means that anytime Prophecy gets attacked or anyone in his team gets attacked, he'll have a Shadow Mend that is basically a lay on hands. It's going to do a tremendous amount of healing. I'm interested to see how that difference plays out in the mirror. At the moment, Morrow getting targeted down, and it seems like the Mage is more of a focus still for Method EU, whereas Skill Capped EU are going after Zuniaki. So slight differences in build, slight differences in targeting. At the moment, Asgraf ahead on mana a minute before dampening.
Yeah, interesting. Also, I mean, some of the differences between Morrow and Thasia. Thasia's playing short combustion, so he's playing the kindling build. He's also playing Incanter's Flow, which is something you don't really see too much from mages. It's more of like the passive intellect throughout the game, as opposed to the Rune of Power, which is that heavy-hitting rune that drops down when you use your combustion. So his combustions are going to be up more often, but a little bit weaker. Morrow opting for the Meteor, so just small differences in these builds. Let's see how it exactly works out for both of these mages. Disarm on Asgraf, another setup here on the Prophecy. Vampiric Embrace, maybe enough healing. He's getting low, dangerously low. Saber the Light does proc Asgraf with a big Divine Toll, managing to completely top him off. Morrow now with a look for a double Dragon's Breath on Zuniaki and Thasia, trying to get in a position to get a polymorph on Chas. Immediately counterspelled there by Thasia, denying that setup. And now Morrow is deep behind enemy waters. Let's see if he can get punished for that, or it looks like they're just going to be going after the Shadow Priest in this matchup. Frosty gets mind-controlled into the eye. Nice play there by Zuniaki, increasing the damage Frosty takes, and that's going to be a dispersion as a result. I really like that play there by Zuniaki.
Very nice setting it up with a mind control. But now Tessia actually pre-alter times right now, so he's going to be in a perfect situation here. And Prophecy, they're going after Chas. Big swap here onto Chas, forcing out his Trinket. He does get the Dispel onto the Mind Games. Asgraf is still there, looking like he wants to get something done. But Prophecy now in a lot of trouble. Asgraf might have gotten a little bit too aggressive. They didn't have any follow-up CC. Doesn't look like it here. And Prophecy is going to be able to survive here. If they can get a Ring of Frost, they get a Sheep, but it's overlapped with the Ring of if Frosty gets feared. He doesn't have dispersion here. This could be this trinket sacrifice from Asgarath, and it will be Chas now in a polymorph. Chas was potentially the target earlier, so they might want to look to swap to him. Both of these paladins in this matchup are definitely good targets. If you can get a fear into a Hammer of Justice or something like that, you can see that happen. And here we go, big swap onto Chas. That's going to be a big meteor hit there from Morrow. They get the re-follow up there with the Psychic Horror, and now they're swapping over onto Asgarath here as well, trying to force the Divine Shield as well, but one big heal connects there from Frosty, and that means that Asgarath will get to keep his Divine Shield, whereas Chas had to use his Divine Shield, and Chas right now, he has no Trinket and no Divine Shield. If Frosty can Door of Shadows on top of Chas, fear him, they can set up a kill condition onto Chas. They have all of the cards that they need. If they can get any crowd control onto Chas to set up from, then they can just win the game here. Mario's looking for the poly, but not able to find it here. Nice shutdowns from Tessia, and once again, Frosty's going to be the target, but now he has his dispersion here. Asgarath pushing in here. Now they're looking for the CC here. Can they get to Chas? There it is. There's the Psychic Screamer we're talking about. Big damage coming in. Frosty gets his dots here. Chas in a polymorph. Where is the setup, though? Tessia is the one actually taking the damage in this exchange. They're going to resheep Chas here. Honestly, a bit of a wasted opportunity. I would have loved to see them go after Chas there. Could have been a big KO moment.
Unfortunate, they're going to miss out on that window. Now they could be in trouble as they're pressuring Asgarath out in midfield. He's going to have to Divine Shield, right? There's no way. 1 second left on it. Into the Dragon's Breath. Oh, he's holding on to it. Saved by the Light. They tried to go for an all-in play, and they don't net the kill there. Definitely a cheeky opportunity to utilize Mind Control and your own Blessing of Protection. Blessing of Protection gets no value in the matchup other than getting Forbearance onto your opposing Paladin. So there's definitely a lot of unique lines of play between both of these teams. Right now, they're currently going after each other's Paladins. Asgarath targeted down again here in a Psychic Horror Silence, and they're pushing for it. They're going to outright going to kill him. Method EU moved to match point, and this is not looking comfortable for Skill Cap EU.
Wow, I mean, Method EU, that was a great swap. Maybe Asgarath relying a little bit too much. I believe he actually was playing the Protection Paladin Legendary, and he was. So he had that proc available, but they were able to just push through it. I mean, we'll see in the replay. He still had his Divine Shield. He still had his Trinket, really trying to greet it out there. So unfortunate for him. I'm actually curious to see if he was on Forbearance somehow. He couldn't use that Divine Shield?
Yeah,
did they Mind Control Bop him?
Yep, they Mind Control bopped him a little bit earlier.
No, okay. The Mind Control Blessing of Protection. You see the Hammer.
Yeah, right here.
Asgarath. See,
he's got Bop active from Chas.
Oh, that is so sad. So yeah, you can do that. I don't know if we called it out during the game, but Mind Control on Asgarath. They use a Blessing of Protection on him. Chas trades out his Blessing of Protection since it doesn't really do too much in that matchup. Asgarath now, he is on Forbearance, so even though he has Divine Shield off cooldown, he's not going to be able to use it. And Method EU perfectly capitalizes on the situation. We got the Psychic Horror. Big Meteor does land, potentially into a Silence, and there's just nothing Asgarath can do in that spot. So great play there by Method EU, really punishing Skill Cap with that setup. And now they're on match point. They're up 2-0, looking good in the mirror. And you know what's funny is this reminds me a lot of what we just saw, where the team that was confident in the mirror match, they locked it in game 1, and they continue to just dominate throughout the series. So we could see a 3-0 here from Method EU like we saw in our last series.
Yeah, that may very well happen here. Already up on match point on the side of Method EU, looking very strong in this series here. Skill Cap EU not quite stepping up to the occasion. So we're going to have to see what they decide to do for game number 3. Do you think that, Super Teas, do we feel like that mirror matchup was a better option for them, though, compared to game 2? Like, how close do you feel like that was when we compared to that first game on the side of Skill Cap?
Well, they were about once. It felt like at one point in the game they were a setup away from winning, and then they just decided to randomly not go on Chas. And I think that was because Zuniaki life crypt him far away, so they're like, "Oh, he's too far. We can't attack him." But you kind of had to. There's too many options after that point if you didn't go after Chas. And then Method EU spun that race in their favor by doing that bop tactic. Normally they would have had to get through Divine Shield, and Asgarath would have been fine. But because they went for the Mind Control bop tactic, then they didn't have to, and they got one step ahead and were able to take the game. Now that we've seen the Paladins as this very priority target, if it ends up being a mirror, it may just end up coming down to who gets better Paladin setups. Shadow Priest Mage is really good at killing healers, especially Paladins, so I do wonder if Skill Cap EU go for a mirror again, or they change it to even just try Windwalker Mage. instead, just to see, like, feel it out, and then maybe anticipate a rematch later on in the day and try and find a different comp, or if they just want to keep practicing the mirror and get better at the paladin killing strat. It's definitely going to be the case on a small map. I was a bit surprised that they were able to get away with it so much for so long on Tolvaron, but the damage is so what's the word, condensed into like very specific moments that you can get aggressive and run on top of the paladin. You're not going to get like Boomkin or Ellie blasted away by a Shadow Priest Mage, and then just focus all of the damage in right at that moment with control. So I don't know, for skill cap to you, I think I'd rather see them try a different comp just to see if it works for them. And then if it doesn't, then they're going to just have to get better at the mirrors, because I don't... What other comp could they really play?
They can play Windwalker Mage, Pally, but I don't...
Yeah, it's not really that great.
Yeah, it doesn't do that well into Shadow Priest Mage, right? Windwalker Mage?
If it was Method NA playing Windwalker Mage, I'd say it probably does okay, but I don't know if it would for them. I was trying to think if there was any other like wizard comp, but like maybe a Boomkin comp or something, and they could dampen.
Boomkin SP?
If they could dampen, but the problem with that is AoE Dispel. AoE Dispel just owns Boomkin Shadow Priest. The other Paladin will play that. But if they were desperate and they didn't want to mirror, I do wonder if they could dampen them. Although that would only work for one game.
I feel like they have to mirror.
Yeah.
Maybe they could try the Warrior Mage Paladin again, but I think the mirror is just... At the end of it all, it's likely we see Skill Cap EU go down to the lower bracket at this point and then make it to the grand finals. So I feel like they just got to get warmed up in these mirror matches if they want to win this cup, and they're just going to have to beat Method EU at their own game. And if they can't do that, then they're not going to win, because I don't really see a better option for them at this point.
Mm-hmm. Certainly a difficult position to be in, but like these guys have already said, this is an upper bracket, so even if they lose this next game here against Method EU, they have another chance to rise back up and challenge Method EU once again. So, you know, we'll see if they can step up to the plate second time around with this mirror matchup, but it's always a difficult position to see. I love when I see teams rise up to the occasion and not shy away from those mirrors, and what, like we said, Method EU, they are not doing that today, which is always such a pleasure to watch, but Skill Cap EU not quite being able to handle it. Method EU just dominating this composition a little bit. Venriki, you're talking a little bit mid-game in game number 2, the difference in builds that we're seeing in those fire mages. In your mind, in this mirror matchup, how important were those in game number 2?
I don't know how important it really was. I mean, I feel like there's solid arguments for both sides. I feel like myself personally, in a matchup like this, I prefer the Meteor, just because a lot of the time, for kindling to have value, even though you're getting combustion up a lot, what ends up happening is your combustion just gets dispelled. Whereas, like, it gets dispelled before you get like full value out of it, and you can dump out enough Fire Blast and Phoenix Flames to really have like a really, really long combustion. Normally you only use that set up against cleaves, whereas with Meteor, what's really, really nice is you just drop a Meteor right before it lands, you combust, Fire Blast, Fire Blast, Power Blast, and that way you get a lot of value out of your combustion, even though it gets Kleptomania spell stolen. So myself personally, I greatly prefer the Meteor build.
And also, one thing that I always like to consider with the Meteor and the Kindling is how many pets exist in the matchup. And there's no pets here. There's only 3 players, and you have a big open map. So the thing about Meteor is a lot of the time it gets soaked up, but not in these God Comp mirrors here. I mean, you could even see it in that last game when they set up that last kill there onto Asgarath. Now Tessia wasn't actually playing the Meteor, but if he had a Meteor there, it would have hit him and it would have done full damage there. So if there's no pets, and you can, and you're playing against, you know, another mage with Kleptomania, or even a mage plus a Shadow Priest for sure. I think Maro's build is just superior in general. I don't like Incanters that much, but Incanters I'm more okay with. But Meteor for sure, I would like to see Tessie actually go for it. Okay. I don't like this matchup.
Go Cap to you is locking in Blizzo on the arms. Warrior Zico doesn't like this matchup.
I think
Am I hearing you right?
They're trying to fish here a little bit, you know, see if on small maps maybe this warrior mage can work. But yeah, I think this is more skill cap trying to get a little bit of more information on this matchup than it is. Like they already know, okay, we can play the mirror and it's going to be a bit of a toss up. It's going to be a bit of a 50-50 there if we win or not. So we kind of already know how that goes. Let's see how the warrior mage does on a really small map. If we can get the warrior to be more effective there. And I mean, mana wise, I think they'll have a lead, but if Chaz can ever drink, which usually happens when you play with two wizards, I feel like Method EU has this one.
Were those puns on purpose? It's not on purpose.
Come on, Aya.
Okay. Okay. You sip your tea. Okay. All right. Well, game number 3 here. We're going to a smaller map, heading to Hook Point. We're seeing Skill Cap DU switch up their composition. We're getting Blizzo out on that warrior. We're going to see if that's the ticket for these guys. Haven't been able to best Method EU yet in this series. We're going to see what they do here in game number 3, or are they just going to gather more information for the next time these guys possibly face off against each other? It's game number 3, Method EU on match point.
I think the main problem is that they lost on mana, even as the warrior mage, and this is a even more difficult map to drink on. Maybe they think that because it's small, the warrior gets more uptime, and if he gets more uptime, they'll win on mana that way. I think that can be the only line of thought here. Asgrath's moving forward with his team. They're actually going Shadow Priest this game, so a bit different in terms of targeting, but Blizzo's already isolated on match point, getting bursted down below half. His whole team's still crowd controlled. Is he going to be able to hold on here? 1 second left on the Psychic Scream. Asgrath gets out of crowd control. Avenging Rat, Divine Toll, Big Heal, now stunning Chaz, going after Zuniaki, pummeling him on his Mass Dispel. Blade Storm shredding him. He's going to fade to Immune it, Mass Dispel, but Mass Dispel's into a Blinding Light, and Zuniaki is still taking a tremendous amount of pressure, trying to recover with the Vampiric Embrace at the moment, and with Trinket Sacrifice, should more than easily survive. So complete strategy flip here from Skill Cap EU, focusing the Shadow Priest. And let's see how it works out for them.
Yeah, I mean, so far it seems like they have significantly more pressure in the matchup. It's going to be a lot more taxing on Chaz's mana as well. Zuniaki's not going to be so free to get those Master Spells. However, Blizzo in a little bit of trouble right now into a Psychic Core with the Polymorph on Asgrath. He's got the Trinket, he's got the Divine Shield, as well as a Sacrifice if he needs to trade, but I think Skill Cap EU, they have the right idea on this smaller map. However, Blizzo's still going to be a really, really vulnerable target here, but not so vulnerable that he's had to use any cooldowns just yet. Deja looking for crowd control, gets the Polymorph on Morrow, Dragon's Breath onto Asgrath. Blizzo immediately comes back and shuts that down. Nicely done there by Blizzo, denying that setup, keeping himself alive, and now Asgrath has an opportunity to push in and get crowd control of his own. Looks like he will be able to do it. Morrow looking for a Polymorph, manages to find it. Zuniak with immediate Mass Dispel. Nicely done. Into a Dragon's Breath, though. Into another Polymorph, and now Zuniaki's still all alone. He uses the Fade, he uses the Shadow Man, should be able to hold on, but great setups and counter setups coming in from both these teams.
Yeah, they get a CC here on the Asgrath now. Full Fear into a full Sheep. That's going to be Asgrath. Oh, no, the Meteor. Tessia did swap over to the Meteor, but he broke the CC chain right there, and Asgrath is able to get a few Word of Glories out. As a result, now Chaz and a full Polymorph Zuniaki could be in a lot of trouble here. He's going to activate the Dispersion here, gripping Chaz as well to avoid that Ring of Frost, but he gets feared by Blizzo. CC chain still looking strong here. Zuniaki gets interrupted. Blade Storm comes in, big damage, and Chaz not going to hesitate here. He's just going to use his Divine Shield and trade it out immediately. And I mean, when Blizzo can get uptime, this matchup is not looking too bad at all. And we're going to see here big leads for Skill Cap EU in this matchup. And this is exactly what the type of information that they need to get. Chaz now in a Hammer of Justice. Morrow getting Klepted there on his combustion. Actually, no, he just got Klepted. So he has a free combustion now as well if he wants to. If they can get any more crowd control, that could definitely be a big opportunity. Counterspells Tessia. There it is. Full combustion. There's no Kleptomania for this one. Tessia, what are you going to do here? Let's see. They're going to trade out the Sacrifice and the Trinket there from Chaz. Chaz now taking a little bit of damage there, redirected as a result, but that's the last defensive option they have here on the side of Method EU. They're gonna have Fade in 15, Dispersion in 30, but Chaz could also get swapped to here. Skill Cap EU with a massive lead.
I think this could just be the end of the game. Any crowd control on Chaz, they're going to Stormbolt him. Zuniaki desperately mind controls, gets counterspelled. Chaz is trying to heal up with the Divine Favor. Asgrath's in position whenever crowd control is available to make a charge. He's getting caught by a Ring of Frost around the corner, though. At the moment, he can't charge in just yet. Blizzo is tearing into Zuniaki. Zuniaki popping into Void form, trying to turn this around, but there's so many cooldowns on the side of Skill-Capped EU. They're winning immensely on mana at this point. Asgrath and Dragon's Breath, but not able to find the Polymorph. Maro shuts him down. Blizzo reconnects. Zuniaki, desperation, fear, silence on Asgrath, trying to slow down the game here. Maybe set up Chaz for a drink. They've got Dispersion. They're turning the table. Blizzo gets bursted down. Asgrath trading the Sacrifice and Trinket during Combustion, but now they could swap to Asgrath. Thaysia just going to use Shifting Power on top of him, cleave him. We see Ring of Frost snipe by Maro to try and interrupt it, but it doesn't land in time. Zuniaki getting hit hard. Chaz into a stun. Thaysia and a poly. It's 3 versus 1 on Zuniaki. Blizzo going in here with Avatar. Dispersion in 1 second.
Whoa.
He might just die through Dispersion. Chaz can't break out of crowd control. They have to stop Polymorph. They Dragon's Breath the Polymorph. They go for a War Stomp instead.
Oh.
Blizzo's trying to connect to Zuniaki, but Zuniaki is kiting them, getting a couple of Shadow Men's in here, but Chaz is still crowd controlled for 1 more second. Will he be able to get there in time? No! And Skill-Capped EU make this matchup look so one-sided on Hook Point, and all it took was a targeting decision. Sometimes just targeting something else completely changes the matchup.
I mean, yeah, it was a huge difference. I mean, Zuniaki in the first game, Zico called it out. He was basically able to do whatever he wants. He's going for mind controls when his team's in trouble. Anytime crowd control lands, he's going for mass dispels, and it can be really hard to shut all of that down. But if you go after him, all of a sudden he doesn't have that flexibility. And when you land crowd control on Chaz, it's a Stormbolt on Zuniaki. It's a pummel on Zuniaki. He's going to be able to get counterspelled. So they can really focus all their efforts on just shutting that down, bursting down the very immobile Shadow Priest. And that just looks so much better for Skill-Capped EU. And I'm a lot more convinced of this matchup now. And now I actually feel like Skill-Capped EU, if they just keep running with this strategy, with this targeting choice, they could reverse sweep in this series.
Certainly have that ability, and here's that breakdown as well from game number 3, Zico.
Yeah, we're going to see here Asgrath in a Hammer of Justice. Maro gets shut down here with a counterspell, and there is a Ring of Frost trying to nail Tessia with it. Not able to find it, but here he gets a sheep onto Tessia, and then he's going to swap it at the very last second there on that Hammer of Justice to Chaz. Zuniaki pops the Dispersion, but the Meteor already connects and does a little bit of damage. Moro trinkets out to get the follow-up CC. Asgrath is there with the War Stomp, double Dragon's Breath, and now Tessia is able to land a counterspell. Asgrath ducks back in and gets the silence, and then here comes the damage. Moro pops that Combustion with a Fireball at 90% cast, gets a Fire Blast, gets a free Pyroblast, and that is going to be enough damage to take down Zuniaki before that Combustion gets dispelled. So I just, those last couple of seconds really highlights well the Paladin and the Mage synergy, that Paladin, he goes for the Hammer of Justice, waits until the last second before he decides to use his Blinding Light. That gives Maro enough time to get his sheep instead, so he holds on to the Blinding Light, then he waits for the resheep, and if he can't get the resheep, he's there with a War Stomp. Then he's like, okay, I'm going to Dragon's Breath into a sheep out of this, gets stopped on the Dragon's Breath sheep, immediately comes back in and gets that Blinding Light, and it's just that synergy, always being ready to follow up if the Mage can't land a CC, and that communication between the Mage and the healer, that's what makes a lot of these teams extremely great. And that's something that specifically Druid players, which Asgrath and Chaz both, I identify them both as Druids mainly, or at least that's their OG mains. And that's something Druid players are typically very good at, because you have to juggle those Cyclones and Polys and do a very similar thing there.
Yeah, it's great to see them do so well, especially when, their main spec Druid isn't all that great right now, but we're seeing those incredible plays still come out from, players like Asgrath, and they're going to maybe be able to potentially turn it around here heading into this next game. They do have 1 point on the board now against Method EU, but they're going to be on the back foot when it comes to this draft process. That was Method EU that locked in that map, and they had to blind lock that composition here. So we're going to be seeing Method EU respond to this composition. They're opting to choose the same comp that we saw in game number 1 and that last game right there. Switching things up a little bit, though, in that last game, we're able to pull that off. Method EU going to be sticking with Shadow Priest, Fire Mage. What does this matchup look like for us, Super Tees? Do you think Method EU is going to respond to that change in targeting that we saw in that last game?
Well, it's just a bigger map, so Blizzo is going to get pulled into really bad positions. You can also get Asgrath out in the middle of the map if you sheep him and then swap to him. So it just allows you to play around the warrior a lot more easily, and it allows Chaz to avoid crowd control a lot more easily as well, having 2 range DPS. If Skill-Capped EU managed to make this work on the big map, I think it's really important for them, because if they blind lock Shadow Priest Mage, Method EU aren't even going to mirror them. They're just going to play Rogue Mage Priest. So to me, Skill-Capped EU actually need to make Warrior Mage work for the whole series if they want to be able to win. So this is kind of, even though it's not the last game of the series, it kind of is, because this is the real test. Like, does it work on a big map going after the Shadow Priest or not? And if it doesn't, then I'm worried about them if they make it back to the grand finals.
Yeah, I'm worried as well. We're going to have to see if they can keep this going here on the side of Skill Capped. And if they can, even if they do lose this next game, what happens when they come back, like Sid is saying, and face off against Method EU? Both of those teams have time to adjust between those games, so it might be a completely different series on our hands here. But we still have to get through this one here, see who exactly makes it to the European finals for today and who gets dropped down to that lower bracket. We're going to find out shortly if this is Method EU going to be sending these guys down 3-1, or is Skill Capped EU going to tie this one up now that they figured out something a little bit differently with Blizzo staying on that Arms Warrior. And what a delight it is to see that guy also come out on the Warrior. One of the best in the region. Always got to talk about that guy when you talk about Warriors, and what an incredible series it was by these guys. It's game number 4, Skill Capped EU versus Method EU on match point.
He's strong. He's brave. He's strong on that Warrior. There's no question about it. And let's see if that braveness pays off here. Going after Zuniaki. I wonder if they could switch it up, go after Thasia. I really don't think so. I think just shutting down those mass dispels, shutting down the mind controls just felt so much better for the side of Skill Capped EU. And allowed Maro to just kind of deal with Thasia. If he could interrupt Thasia, so what Maro's going to be trying to do in this game is get a counterspell on Thasia or a polymorph on Thasia, then go for a Dragon's Breath play onto Chaz. So immediate crowd control going out onto Asgrath. Unfortunately, the War Banner does miss. They snipe it off. Big opener here. Blizzo's in some trouble. Uses the Die by the Sword and the double intimidating shout. And Zuniaki's not going to be able to break out of that. That's one thing. With him playing Relentless, anytime Blizzo gets in trouble, Intimidating Shout is basically get out of jail free card. If he can get that on Zuniaki and just use it pure defense, Zuniaki has no breaks unless they commit a Blessing of Protection, and that's going to really limit the kill potential here for Method EU. Potentially, Blizzo getting low. Trinket Sacrifice comes in, and Blizzo's a lot more pressured in this match.
Yeah, that's going to be Trinket Sacrifice, already forcing the Die by the Sword as well. And Asgrath doesn't have a Trinket Sacrifice. Well, guess what? Method has 2 Blessings of Protection. So at any point, Zuniaki actually is forced into this dispersion right now since they get a Ring of Frost into a sheep here onto Chaz. Zuni actually is still in a lot of trouble here. We're going to have to hold that thought for a little bit longer. Void Eruption comes out. Is he going to pair it? He doesn't have the Vampiric Embrace actually right now to pair it with, but he does catch a big heal there from Chaz, and he is going to be fine. At any point, if they can sneak in a full sheep onto Asgrath, they actually can just mind control him into a Blessing of Protection and then just delete him and prevent him from using that Divine Shield. But right now, it looks like they're going to go for the Silence Sheep combo, go after Blizzo. He gets Hammer of Justice, forced to use his Trinket here. That's looking for the Re-Polymorph, fake cast Blizzo right there, and he's able to land it, another Re, but Maro shuts it down with a Sheep onto the Mage. Now swapping it over to Chaz. Zuni here using that Fade, using that Master Spell, gets it off, but Asgrath is looking for the Hammer of Justice here, chasing after Chaz. Chaz, knowing that there's no Master Spell right now, needs to get a little bit of distance between him and Asgrath, and that's going to allow Tessia to land another Polymorph here. Big damage coming in onto Blizzo. Meteor connects. So much damage. Do they have anything to follow it up with is the question. Tessia gets polymorphed by Maro, and Maro's going to shut that CC chain down. Nice pummel here onto Tessia. Blizzo's going to activate the Avatar, and now look to get aggressive here onto Zuniaki. Maro is crowd controlling Chaz on the opposite end of the map. He has one more polymorph DR potentially here, but no, they're going after Asgrath here, getting a nice disarm into a silence combo. Blizzo taking so much damage. There's the Hammer of Justice. There's the Mind Games. Big hits coming in. Asgrath in a full poly. Might need to use his bubble. He's trying to greet it right now. There it finally comes out. The big bubble right there. And that's going to be a Kleptomania coming out from Maro as well, which means Maro now can't activate his combustion if they do get some pressure. So this game is definitely spiraling out of control here for Skill Capped EU. Method has them on the ropes, Sid.
Yeah, right now it's match point. This is a tense moment. Asgrath has Trinket Sacrifice, though, so they're going to have one more out. I would like to see Method EU swap to Asgrath if they get that cooldown. They're going for Polymorph at the moment here. They get a full Polymorph. Blizzo is isolated. How much damage can they do here? Void Eruption. Blizzo intervening back, and actually the Void Eruption breaks the crowd control. Blizzo reflects the half Polymorph and breaks out Asgrath. That was a nice play by Blizzo, disrupting that chain, and now he's going to have some free time on Zuniaki as Maro blinks in to get a Polymorph of his own. Shut down by Zuniaki here. We see Asgrath sneaking in on the right side. Chaz is trying to run away from Asgrath. He does not want to get Blinding Light or Hammer of Justice. Maro Polymorph for a moment. They stun up Blizzo out of line of sight. They catch Asgrath on his way in with the Dragon's Breath, full Polymorph. Blizzo's in trouble. Big damage down below half. They might be able to close it here if Asgrath isn't careful. He's trying to play it greedy, holding on to that Medallion Sacrifice, but he's into a 1 second Psychic Scream, into a 3 second Poly. Blizzo's just trading out absorption effects here to try and tank the damage. And Asgrath, though, doesn't feel comfortable and trades the Medallion Sacrifice. Now, no Divine Shield, no Medallion. They're trying to kill Zuniaki before it becomes a problem. Is Chaz going to respond in time now is the question. Zuniaki's trying to heal himself up. These Shadowmen's getting a lot of value, but the crowd control is looking endless. Chaz does trade Sacrifice, but holds on to the Medallion. Now, at this point, what I'd like to see from Method EU is Dragon's Breath Sheep Asgrath, and then run on top of him, sheep up Blizzo, fear the DPS, and just kill Asgrath.
Yeah, Blizzo's playing a really interesting build for Ven Theory's playing Service and Stone, so if he's below 40% health, he takes an additional 10% less damage, as well as that, when he uses his Door of Shadows, he gets a 15% of his health in Absorb Shield, so he can keep himself alive with those two things. And even though he's low on health, the amount of damage reduction he gets from Ignore Pain, from Defensive Stance, from Service and Stone, makes him really difficult for Thasia and Zuniaki to actually take down entirely.
Here it comes.
Big setup here. Hammer of Justice. Can they take him down? Let's see if they can get it. Blizzo there with the Intervene. Asgrath could potentially survive. Looks like the Intervene damage reduction is more than enough. Asgrath survives. Now they turn it around. A full Polymorph on Chaz. Interrupt on Thasia. Zuniaki might have to trade more than Justice Fade. That's the Vampiric Embrace as well, as Skill Cap to You is looking to get very aggressive. Blessing of Protection trades from Chaz, providing a little bit of defense there by Zuniaki, but gets removed. And now I'm afraid for Zuniaki. Asgrath, he survived that setup quite well. Big Mind Games coming in, though. Blizzo has to hold on. He's got a lot of cooldowns. Skill Cap to You looking very durable. And now it's Method EU on the back foot.
Yeah, so there is a bit of a kill window here onto Asgrath. If they can get a Hammer of Justice before he has Trinket up, they can take down Asgrath. But Zuniaki, like you mentioned, under a lot of fire here, forced to use his Dispersion, and that kill window is slipping away very, very shortly. And here we go. This is it. Let's go. Can they actually get it? Do they have the damage here? Full Hammer of Justice. Do they have any follow-up? There's a silence. And that's going to be it. And Asgrath gets taken down with about 4 seconds left on his Trinket. Method are going to advance to the finals. And Skill Cap EU are going to be dropping down to the lower bracket to face off against Kowana Gaming.
I suppose I dropped the ball on that one. Well, it went on the back foot. They were getting close to a kill. I mean, we're going to see it in the replay. I feel like there's been a few moments, though, where Asgrath, I feel like he's overstayed his welcome in moments where he's in trouble. It happened on Tolvaron where he was on Forbearance. I just feel like if he was positioned in a bit more of a defensive posture, this actually wouldn't have been possible. So Blizzo recovers. Asgrath, at this point, he really has no cooldowns whatsoever, but he's still just going aggressive. He's in the middle of the map. He's trying to chase down Chaz. He's going for crowd control, and you really can't entirely blame him, as they feel like they have good pressure on Zuniaki, but it just puts him in such a vulnerable spot where there's really nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide, and at this point, if I'm Asgrath, I have 10 seconds left on my Trinket, I'd be out of there. I'd be behind a pillar, just kind of realizing how much danger you're in, but unfortunately for him, that didn't happen. Method EU, they do capitalize on it, and they're going to win the series 3-1, but still, I feel like for Method EU, they have to be very concerned with this Warrior Mage Paladin, because I think it's still a great comp for Scale Cap to You, and if they do make it into the finals, I think it'll be a close finals indeed.